Hey, Rio here. I'm in my office before the start of the semester and I'm preparing, as I mentioned before, content for you to be able to work on before, a little ahead. And I always try to do this. I always attempt to have at least 3 due dates ahead of you to do because some of you are really wonderfully diligent and working ahead is beneficial to you and to me because if I find something I didn't cover, it's helpful. So I like to do this as much as possible. So you'll probably see this week because this is actually our first due date of the first full week of the semester. So this is where we really start to get into the mode of what it's going to look like for the next 8 weeks of the course. Because remember, again, this is very compressed. It's going to go fast. But I'm knowing that if you need help, you reach out because that's what I've said before, right? The importance of doing that. And today, I'm actually in my office at Fresno City campus. So I'm at BE, Business Education 113. By the time you see this, hopefully I will have had in the syllabus my office hours populated. I will try to have that done over the weekend of this. So again, depending on when you've gotten here. So let's go ahead and turn to what we need to do and we'll check that out. So in our course, you have now gotten through your first due date. So now you're into the second week and the due date here. So this video right here that you're actually, this is the video you're watching. Okay, so this is where you got that video. Okay, so I want to tell you what I expect from this because I'm going to go over a few things I want to make sure you take a few notes on. Okay, so don't let this confuse you, but here's what I want you to do is go ahead and open up your lecture doc, and then here's your week 2, which is a heading 1, and then I want you to put class topics, and that will be a heading 2. And then I want you to do becoming a web developer, full stack versus front end, and that is also a heading 2. Okay, and here's the reason. I want you to take a few notes on the stuff I'll talk about as an overview for that item, that due date item. Okay, because there'll be information that I want to make sure you've captured, right? So just to say, you're watching this video, the notes are going to go in the same document that you're going to use to take notes on your first formal lecture for this class. So they go in the same doc is my point about that. All right, so first, but before I get there, before I kind of go over an overview of these things, I want to talk about just briefly the concept that I have here, which is I really want you to put it in your calendar, no matter what your major is that one of the big events we have for you coming up this semester is actually on October 22nd down at Bitwise. If you haven't seen Bitwise downtown, the Tech Hub in Fresno, definitely go just to also view that building because it's awesome. And I help run through Google Developer Groups Fresno Developer Fest. Okay, so it's a Dev Fest. We call it Valley Dev Fest because it combines several local GDG chapters. So GDG is Google Developer Groups. So GDG is a Google program that I help run and let's see if they're here it is, Google Developer Groups. So they're groups that are all over the world, and I help run the local chapter. You can see for how many countries are represented, how many events that are run. There's just a ton of them, and it's just our local incarnation of this, or we are a local chapter of GDG. And so I also, by the way, help run another organization called Women in Tech. Okay, so sorry, Women Tech Makers. Jeez. It's been an interesting day. So Women Tech Makers is also a Google program, and I hold monthly meetings, help hold monthly meetings for that initiative as well. But this one that I'm talking about, because we hold monthly meetups, and you can check Meetup for that. But this is one of our big events. We hold 2 big events a year. So really awesome for any level of student, any level of person that wants to learn more and connect with the local development community, understand what's happening in Fresno, get a deeper dive into some of the things you're going to hear about, may already know about, but this is just a great thing to know. So I will, I think they're still working on the site for this, but when it does come up, it'll be valleydevfest.com. Okay, so I have a few things in your notes about this, and like I said, this website probably by the time you get here will have already been available and you can check it out. Let's just see right now if it is actually available yet. Oh, I should have used paste and go right there. Oh, it's not yet. Okay, so it's still in the process of being, we're actually, anyway, you don't need to know that part. So that's the first thing. The other thing about this is now our week 2. I've talked about making sure you get help. I've already set up the Hangout. There's a couple of students already in there. By this time, there should be a few more. So that's an important thing, is to get help, right? Knowing how to get help, right? So how are the two primary ways? There's probably three, right? So the first way to get help would be what? Okay, chat. Second way would be what? Email. Yeah, that'd be a good way. And then come see me, right? Right, so those, and again, you could do this, right? So you could do this, and then you could do like bullets, right? Something like that. So those are the different ways you could get help, depending on how it works for your schedule. I will have my schedule as far as my office hours in the syllabus by the time you get here. But also remember, contact me. I'll be if I can make myself available, I will. Okay, so coming back here, so that's so just those are the few things I want you to put in class topics, right? So now I'm going to go over your first official lecture and what I want from that. So this first lecture, and let me just show you the item because there's not much write up in here about this, is that what you'll have is your first lynda.com lecture, and it will be on full stack versus front end. And this is again our just giving you the context of the industry. These are really important terms to understand the differences between these. This actually was, some of this content is a little bit of a repeat from our current topics of week 1, but this goes a bit deeper and gives you pathways. I think it's just really a good thing to know. So when I gave you the link here, so you need to have had your lynda.com account. So let me just go in here. And then what you'll do, and I'm going to go over here to the side. So your introduction, right, 47 seconds. You don't have to do notes here, but starting here on getting started, you do. Okay, so then what I want is your getting started, and let me just show you how I laid this out in the document. So now your getting started here would be a heading 3. And now what you can do here is, and I'm not going to dictate how you do the rest of it, but I do want something for every, you could do it this way, okay? So now you could do for that first video, you could do, let me go drop this down, types of web developers, right? So you'll do that. You don't have to use a bullet point. You could use indent. You could do other things, all right? So types of web devs. Right? And then here I want at least a couple of things, right? So at least a couple of things you get from each video. And these are concepts, these are things that, you're going to walk away with at least. And the thing is, the more you take notes on this stuff, the better you'll retain it. So, but also I know sometimes taking notes can, for some folks, interfere with them getting the information. So you can also, after you watch it, put a few things that you're going to remember. So now what am I looking for in these notes that you're taking? I'm really looking for, did you watch it? And if you just provided me the first 2 things I talked about, I'm going to be a little, because I've watched this. I know what they're going to talk about in here. So I want you to really watch this and give me at least a couple. You can do more than 2. Definitely some of these are a little longer. Database languages, a little longer. Traditional education, boot camps. I mean, there's just, some of it's a little longer, so I would expect a few more notes on those things, okay? So that's your first official lecture from lynda.com this week. So you need to have that set up and ready to go. Now let's talk about the other 2 items you have for this week, which is web development or web-related jobs. So what I want you to do here is go do some research about web development and be web developer, really, job, or front end, back end, that'd be another term. And really, that's why I have you do these in the sequence that I lay out, because when you do the web developer front end versus back end, you'll also get exposed to a lot of the terms that you can then use to search for jobs, right? Now, these don't have to be jobs in Fresno, but if it was me, I'd probably want to look for jobs that might be available in Fresno, but you could also look for jobs outside of the Fresno area. And so what you want to do here is provide us links to the jobs that you found and anything that you may have found surprising during your research, right? I will modify this. You do need to write 150 words about this. Provide us the links. I would want to see at least 2 job links. I'd like to see maybe a little more. And then you do need to do replies to each of these to your fellow classmates. So I'll modify that once I'm done. Okay? So now, the other item that you have for this due date on your second week of the semester is looking at the difference between websites and web apps. So there's a link I've provided here to an article that was updated pretty recently, even though it was written a couple years back. And I think it just quickly lays out the difference between web apps and websites. And so I want you to read that, gain an understanding of what that is, and then I want you to do some research and find some examples of a web app versus a website, and then use the heading inside of your discussion board. So in this case, you're doing writing, and that's good to understand the context here is on the hands-on and the current topics. You're doing the writing in the discussion board, and when you're doing lectures, you're doing it in your Google Doc. Okay, so in here, when you hit reply, you do actually have something kind of similar to your Google Doc, right? So if I come down here and look at this, I could say site. Oh, I'm on the wrong keyboard. I have 2 keyboards in my office. Site versus app. And then what you can do is make this a heading, right? So, and I'd probably make it a heading too. And then you'd want to do the first part of this, which is to go find, like I said, examples of websites, examples of web apps, at least one of each, maybe more if you can find them. And then what you want to do is after you do that writing and provide links, and we've talked about links, but it doesn't hurt to go over. Like as an example, this wouldn't be a link I'd provide, but just in general, how do I do a link in here? So I click and drag across. I go over to here to link, insert that link. I copy that over and I insert the link. Being a good citizen here, what we also would do is go into the HTML editor, and we would do, and you're going to learn this if you don't already know it, target. And I'm noticing that Canvas is actually adding this underscore blank. And the reason you do this, let me just go back to my rich editor now that I've done the HTML. And what it will do is when I hit save here or post, it'll actually give me a little indication that it's an outbound link. Sometimes Canvas will do that for you, but don't count on it. Make sure that when you do provide links, you go into the So again, this is a regular graphics editor, and then when you click here, the HTML, target underscore blank, and it also adds a referral here, which is just something they add on the back on the Canvas side, which is also, by the way, why we don't like graphical editors anymore, or graphical web development tools, because it tends to inject things that we may or may not want. Okay. All right, and then on the second one, so I was just talking about that and I decided to diverge there. The second one you'll do build it and they will come, or something fun, right? But here what I'm asking for is really the idea of, have you thought about something you would want to build, either a site or an app, right? And are you here to actually learn? Do you have already a topic in mind? And if not, have you thought of things? Do you have that idea that you think would launch a full-size company for you, right? There are just different things that, everybody comes in with their own ideas here. So I like to see, and it's good to see what your fellow students in here have considered. Okay, I'm not going to go ahead and post this, but I just want to give you that example. So those are the 2 things. I think that's it you have for this particular due date. Again, that's why I do the start here, so you get an idea of the work that you need to do. Oh, and the last thing I will say, the other event I am involved in is 59 days of code. So that is a local coding competition. I'm actually the judge this year. It's the largest coding competition in Fresno, sponsored by Bitwise, Chevron, PG&E, 400 developers. There's a lot of developers competing for some good money here. There's some decent money to be made, but it's also good to go see what people are developing. So there, I think this is kind of, and I will leave you with this point. People are a little surprised when I talk to them about the technology community in Fresno, because even 5 years ago it wasn't what it is today. And Bitwise and Fresno City, Fresno State, the technology companies that are here have really helped bring up our tech community. So, don't let people kind of make you think Fresno doesn't have a technology center, because we do, and we are definitely starting to bring up our offerings in Fresno of what you can learn, and then opportunities for people to make money at this stuff. All right, that's it for me. Again, you just have to make sure you've put a few things in your class topics, and then you can get started on your lecture. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.